Once upon a time, there was a man named Bluebeard, and he was called this because he had a naturally blue beard, which, understandably, frightened everyone around him. No one knew why his beard was blue. They thought maybe he was cursed, maybe he was involved in witchcraft. Whatever the reason, everyone was afraid of him. And when everyone is afraid of you, it gets very lonely. And Bluebeard soon found himself wanting a wife. So he went down to this lone house in the forest and took from 3 sisters the eldest. He brought her all the way back to his seaside home and made her his wife. Soon after, though, Bluebeard was going on a trip overseas, and he left the keys to his new wife. "You may go through every door in our abode," he said, "except one." Bluebeard motioned to one door that she was not allowed to enter, set apart by itself from the others. His wife agreed, and Bluebeard set off. When he was gone, the wife went through all of the doors she was allowed to, and within all those doors she found treasures and banquet halls and galleries, artifacts, ancient weapons, ballroom, wardrobes, jewels, and coins galore. She now had access to everything that she never ever thought she could before. Yet still, she just couldn't help but be curious about that one door. So what she did was she went over to that door and took out the keys, unlocked it, and stepped inside. And what she saw made her drop the keys in utter shock and disbelief. What was in the room were all of Bluebeard's previous wives, dead. Their bodies were all over the floor, in cages strung up on the walls. The entire floor was covered in their blood, and the girl struggled to pick up the keys and quickly rushed out the door, locked it, and shut the door behind her. And when she looked down at the keys, she noticed their blood stained it. Shocked, she tried to wipe it off, but it was magical or something. She tried to wipe off the blood again, but it stained the key and it would not come off. And she knew that once Bluebeard came back and saw the keys, that he'd know that she'd gone against his wishes. Bluebeard arrived back home some time later, and he asked her, "Did you have a good time while I was away?" And she said, "Yes, I did." And he said, "Did you find the ballroom?" And she said, "I did, it was lovely." And he asked, "Did you see the treasury?" And she said, "I did." And then he asked, "Did you go in the room I asked you not to go in?" "No, I didn't." "Oh, well, great. Give me the keys." And the girl took out the keys. She knew that she was going to get caught, but she had no other choice. So she dropped the keys in his hand, and when Bluebeard looked at it, he knew that she'd been in the room. So he murders her and puts her body in there. But now Bluebeard needs a new wife. He's become lonely again. So he goes back to that same house, to that same family, and he kidnaps the second eldest sister and takes her back home and makes her his new wife. Once again, Bluebeard must go overseas, and he leaves the keys with his wife, who he instructs can go into any door except one. And once he leaves, the middle sister goes through as many doors as she could, and she discovers all the wonderful things that her older sister before her discovered. And like her older sister, she too gets too curious and discovers Bluebeard's awful secret, once again dropping the key in the blood and not being able to wipe the stain off. When Bluebeard returns, he asks, "Did you find the banquet hall?" And she says, "I did. I dined in there." And then he asks, "Did you find all the dresses and jewels?" And she says, "Yes, I did." "Did you go through the door I asked you not to go in?" No, I never stepped foot in there." "Well, good. Show me the keys." and just like her older sister before her, she hands him the keys, and when he discovers the blood on there, he murders her and puts her body in there as well. Once again, Bluebeard is lonely as ever, and he wants another wife, so he goes back to that poor family in the forest and takes their final daughter. He brings her back to his home and makes her his wife, and once again must go overseas and leaves the keys with her. Like her older sister, she goes through all the doors and gets too curious about that one door. But unlike her older sisters, after she unlocks the door, she doesn't take the keys in with her, so that when she gets shocked from seeing all of the bodies of Bluebeard's previous wives, including her 2 older sisters, she has nothing to drop in the blood. She quickly hurries out of the room, shuts the door behind her and locks it, and holds onto the key and promises that Bluebeard will not find out that she knows his secret. And while waiting for her husband's return, she writes a very detailed letter to her older brothers back home. When Bluebeard comes back home, he asks her, "Did you see all the artifacts?" And she says, "I did." And he said, "Did you find all the linens?" And she said, "Yes, I did." And then he asks, "Did you go through the door I asked you not to go in?" And she says, "No, I did not." "Well, great. Show me the keys." She dropped the keys in Bluebeard's hand, and when he looks it over, he can see no blood staining the key. Finally, he thinks, he has a wife that he can trust, and he goes to sleep at ease that night. Except the girl's brothers had shown up at the castle doors, and when she let them in, they went up to Bluebeard's room and killed him in his sleep. Bluebeard's wife had inherited all of the wonderful and awful things of his castle, and was able to live comfortably and move on from this horrifying experience. And though she had been through such trauma and had great losses, she managed to live happily ever after. The end. Hi guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Big shout out to my patrons, Leaf Ninja, Roy Larimer, Mr. Creepypasta, Nicole Kister, Neon Scoundrel, William Dolphin, and So Much Heresy. If you want to become a patron, buy merch, or join my Discord server, be sure to check out the links in the description. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video.